I originally saw this and I was like, I don't want to talk about it, but it's the largest United Methodist church in the whole denomination, supposedly. Has a huge staff, and one of their longtime clergy just quietly retired right after he was charged with, I don't know, the solicitation of prostitution. Yeah, here it is. Texas megachurch pastor retires after arrest for solicitation of prostitution at a massage parlor. I don't necessarily need to talk about everything, but I saw like 4 articles about it, and I thought, this would just be dishonest not to acknowledge. I feel like I've seen this guy's face before, John F. Fiedler. He's a former minister at the nearly 15,000 member Highland Park United Methodist Church in Dallas, Texas. He retired last month following an arrest for solicitation of prostitution at a massage parlor, whose new owner was known by authorities for promoting prostitution, according to police and court records. Fiedler, 72 years old, has been a pastor at Highland Park from 2013 until his retirement in 2024. Church records show Fiedler joined the megachurch in 2013, where he preached at the 11 a.m. sanctuary service until he was chosen to direct the Mark Craig Leadership Network to train servant leaders. The Mark Craig Leadership Network empowers servant leaders working in the church and in the public sector to integrate faith into their work. Through the network's 2-track program, our goal is to expand spiritual influence by sending servant leaders into the community. So there's more to that article, and including a picture of the place where it took place. But I don't know. You can read about these things on your own. I read 3 of the articles, and I'm getting flashbacks to that East Indian Christian apologist Ravi Zacharias. Similarly, these freaking massage. I'm never ever going to go to a massage parlor. 1, because I like being high strung. Don't loosen me up. 2, I'm just afraid to death that it's actually going to be a sex trafficking place. It happens all the time at these prostitution places. Don't do it. I don't know how many of you have read American Saint, which is a biography on Francis Asbury, but he was in poor health for a while, and a doctor recommended that he go to this hot springs place. And this was like a place for hoity-toity people to come relax. And he, of course, didn't know how to do that. So he would go out and he would preach to these people all the time. And he was amazed at how unreceptive they were. But of course, it's because, when you're in luxury and relaxing, life feels pretty good. And you're not really thinking about your sin and depravity and all this. And in fact, when you look at places like this, you're giving into your depravity. And, I'm thinking of in Boston Avenue United Methodist Church in Tulsa. They had a long-standing pastor who turned into a bishop, actually, who he was gay, and his office was high up in the tower of this church, and he would have gay prostitutes brought up to his office at the church and have sexual relations with them in the place. Why am I bringing this up? Just because you preach Christ doesn't mean you follow Christ. Just recently with Steve Lawson, people have been appalled. This guy was preaching what sounded like the pure word, and then he's practicing adultery. What do we do with this? Well, if you're a worldlian, you look at this and go, the faith of Jesus Christ just doesn't mean anything to any of these people. And I don't think that that's the way to go. I think the way to go is something that Methodism in particular has as a strength, and that's to preach and expect holiness and accountability. So one of the phrases associated with early Methodism was watching over one another in love. We have to watch over one another in love. We have to hold our leaders accountable. And then as we do that, we have to respect and honor and obey them as well. That's the exchange. But here in America, where our culture affects how we do church, we very much want to be left alone. We want to have our privacy. We want for people to watch themselves rather than us. And that makes it so that these people who, I'm not going to say they don't believe. I mean, obviously they believe in some capacity, but they don't fear the Lord rightly. They allow the evil one to get in and start whispering and saying, you can do this, and it's not a big deal. Like, we all know how the evil one works to foster temptation in us. So if you don't have that spiritual equipment to say, get behind me, Satan, then he's going to get you, and he's going to scandalize your ministry and the ministry of Jesus Christ. I mean, how many people learn about stuff like this and go, man, this guy, he really made a big difference in my life. And if he could do this, then the faith that he preaches just must not be worth very much. If you saw my interview with Jared Smith, the atheist church auditor, you saw that this came up in his mentality a lot, that I've just known so many of these people who were serious about their faith, and whenever they give in to temptation like this, of course it's going to put a bad taste in people's mouths. So just like we're seeing in the realm of politics, there are certain things that just don't work, and we need to sober up and stop trying to do this thing that just doesn't work. We were talking about DEI initiatives. We need to stop doing stuff like that in the church. There are certain things that set spiritual leaders up for failure. And we're going, gee, why are all these failures failing? Why are all these pastors failing? Well, maybe it's because we don't fear our sin enough. Maybe it's because our theology of depravity, have you noticed a theme with me? We don't have a healthy, robust doctrine of sin. We've imagined that we're all basically okay. If you sit in a pew, sing some hymns, then the evil one doesn't have any power over you. If you speak in tongues, say some words of knowledge, you're going to be okay. No, the evil one is powerful. Our own sin, we don't even need the help of the evil one a lot of the time. We are sinners. We're steeped in sin. We're inclined towards sin, and that continually. And we need to be continually filled with the Holy Spirit. We need to be held accountable and subjected to the scrutiny of church leadership and our peers in the faith. That's why you need to be in an accountable small group discipleship group. You need people holding you accountable and watching over you in love. Otherwise, the evil one, your own sin, will do you in. That's the moral that we need to learn. And it's like communism. People think, yeah, a lot of people have failed. I'm going to do it right. They failed, but I'm stronger than them. And I think the only sober, faithful place to get is, I'm no better than anybody else who has fallen. So I need to organize my life in such a way that I cannot fall. So me personally, like my wife has my passwords to everything. She can easily get on my phone, my computer, see how I've been talking to, what I've been doing. I've had men's accountability groups where I'm laid bare before them, and we expect the same thing. This is very countercultural, but if we're not willing to do this, then we are going to continually have people, I don't know how many of you, when you saw I was going to talk about this, I do think liberal churches have a more accommodating theology to sin. But the scandal of nowadays is even people who have right-leaning, evangelical theology, right doctrine, can still completely fail in this arena. It's demoralizing and depressing to see just how many there are. It's also, this thing got blown open because more law enforcement attention, it seems to me, is going towards sex trafficking and ending this stuff that's been going on really forever. But I mean, it's almost been like facilitated in my mind. I love that they're cracking down more on this stuff, and they saw this woman who was facilitating all kinds of sex trade here, and then they saw who was going in there and discovered that he was one of them. So they're now trying to claim that he has like dementia, and that this moral failing was, he's just not the same person. He's really struggling and he's not himself. Maybe, I don't know him, but I just know accountability sure is hard. And I hate talking about this because the man has a family, and I'm sure he has people who love him, and I would hate to add to that. But listen, friends, if you're going to be a religious leader and you are not willing to pursue holiness, you need to get out right now. Because not only is it going to scandalize the gospel of Jesus Christ, it's going to hurt your family when you're exposed. And if you're just sitting here, I can manage it, and I can still do what needs to get done, and I can just keep my secret sin, that's going to do so much harm. You need to get out of ministry. It doesn't matter that we need more pastors for churches. If you cannot rise to the moment, you've got to get out. And then if you are struggling and you hear the truth in what I'm saying right now, repent and bring that to your elders, and you need to be forgiven. and you need to walk in newness of life right now, because the church does need people who walk in righteousness. We cannot have people who scandalize the faith like this. We need people who step up and stop making excuses and stop justifying themselves. So if that's you, do it. But if you are justifying yourself, especially with sexual sin, you need to get out of ministry right now. That's just unacceptable.